How you interpret God and your idea of what you think God is dramatically going to affect how you view suffering within reality. But not only that, how you position yourself within this reality, right? If you're the center of all this and all the bad thing that affects you and you only see it within your realm, of course it's going to look like there's a lot of evil, but you are taking you as the center of it all. What if it's all masterfully working and it's all equally loved the same? What if the rock is loved just as much as you are? Welcome, Stay Spiritual team, James and Justin. Back at it again. Now we're doing a request video here. This was to do anything on the guru named Swami. I gotta get this right. I wrote down Sarvapriyananda. Hopefully I got that right.
Sounds pretty good.
And this video caught my eye, and it's on the problem of evil, or why do people suffer. So we'll get into it and we'll start deconstructing.
And many other theories are there. Why is there suffering? What is the theory in Hinduism? One common theory, the standard answer in Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism is the law of karma. It's not God's fault. And whose fault is it? It's yours. It's ours. So, how is it our fault? Law of karma is cause and effect. Consequences. Actions have consequences. So if I'm getting consequences now, pleasant or unpleasant, usually I don't ask too many questions when the consequences are pleasant. Win a lottery, I don't ask questions. Did I deserve to? Why did I win this lottery? Oh no. On the other hand, if something unfortunate happens, unpleasant happens, why do I deserve this?
That is true. When good things happen, we don't tend to question it almost at all. Like, why could I be so lucky? Sometimes we do. I don't think.
It makes me wonder what's healthy. Like, it makes me wonder if it's like a healthy, well-adjusted person, when good things happen, will not question it. And it's actually a sign of something bad if I'm not saying that that's what. It makes me question, like, well, I've definitely had good things happen and wondered about it and been trepidatious about it. What's going on,
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hurt yourself by not just accepting something good coming your way.
Oh, yeah. But I think, like, he's obviously making the side caveat to that is when bad things happen, we question the hell out of it. I'm like, why me?
Or that's why I asked the question about mental health here, because would a mentally unwell person be like, yeah, figures bad things would happen to me? I don't question. They wouldn't say, why me, right? And then there's everybody's opinion on it, you know? Like, there's some people that maybe something bad happens and they go, well, them's the breaks or whatever, or goes, why me?
Yeah.
What's the most effective way to be regarding good things and bad things happening? Now, I'm going to quiet down now because I'm overanalyzing this, which I have a tendency to do. But that's where my mind goes, is into all these different pathways about just that one thing he said.
Yeah. Well, hey, and then the first thing he said right off the bat was that the law of karma, that it's not God's fault, it's your fault, which I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to struggle with what he said there. There's going to be, I don't think there's it's a unanimous consensus on that. I think a lot of people would be like, no, what are you talking about? It's not my fault the bad things happen to me, right? And I'm not saying I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying that's a philosophy that is out there.
Yeah, but I mean, we can't even go forward until you do acknowledge that, though, because why don't you take somebody that's too new, too young to even have done anything wrong, and something bad happens to them,
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just throwing it out there. We got to be careful. Let's hear what he has to say.
It has never made sense to me. There's so many wonderful people, loving people. I've lost faith in God. Especially sometimes a beloved person went through so much suffering. I prayed and prayed and prayed. Nothing happened. I lost faith in God. This kind of thing, I understand the emotional content behind it. But what does not gel with me is that you knew there is tremendous suffering in the world just because in your own case This, you experienced it firsthand. Now you have lost faith in God. In your place, I would have said, I lost faith in God from the very beginning because there's so much suffering all around. Not because I or my beloved person suffered. That my suffering makes me lose faith in God. That
Yeah, he's taking kind of an empathetic place, though. To me, that's not very common. What he said was, I don't understand why you would wait for something to happen to you and lose faith with God. Can you not look around and see all the suffering that's going on? Why didn't you already? But we're human and we're all fallible, and you're looking at the world through your eyes.
Yeah, but there's lots of people that I've met who look at reality instantly. There's no way there could be a God because of the atrocities that I see.
Right,
Not
but
that
then
they
you've
necessarily-
also met people that are like, my life is fine and dandy,
Yeah.
And there's a stability in that too, because when bad things happen, they might go, what did I do wrong? And God, they'll have a trust that they'll get through it because of their faith in God.
Yeah. Yeah.
argument, somehow, though many people make it, but it doesn't cut much ice with me. Houston Smith, the great professor of religion, whose book, The World's Religions, it's still a textbook, standard textbook. He died a couple of years ago. He had a very tragic incident in his life. His beloved granddaughter was murdered. And then afterwards, there was a radio interview sometime afterwards, and the interviewer asked, so, Professor Smith, do you still believe in God after this? So the person who told me this narrated, she's a nun in Santa Barbara, and she knew Houston Smith quite well, and she could mimic him very beautifully. So she told me that when they asked the question, he replied in his characteristic way. He replied, how absurd! The people that die and are murdered all over the world, all throughout history. Just because today it is my granddaughter, I should stop believing in God? How absurd. Whether you believe in God or not, that's a different thing. This cannot be a ground for believing or disbelieving.
Maybe what he's trying to say there is that regardless of what's happening to you within this existence, why is the fact that horrible things can happen to you the deciphering factor for why there is no God?
Warning to what I'm about to say here. Not trying to negatively talk about anybody's beliefs, but what do we mean by God?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we mean a character? A person much like a man that devises plans and has an ego, and you can, suck up to them or something? Like, what do we mean by God? You might be like, this man, the source of everything really doesn't know what it's doing. Or you might look at the source of everything and be like, it is mysterious and awe-striking because on one hand, there's plant matter that manifests that seems to display intention and problem solving in some areas, but at the same time, everything is vicious and chaotic, and arrive at a place where you're like, everything is everything, everything is whatever you think everything is, it is. And then that's where you start to maybe lose people and they're like, well, dude, I'm trying to round it down to a point here, which is why in the last video I talked about going from a stable, secure understand, like I feel like I understand everything, and then jumping back into the waters of uncertainty.
Yeah.
It is like sometimes I think it's like a mercy in life that there's anything that's solid and grounded, and we can, for even a moment, it's like sometimes people don't. There's different types of people, right? Yeah. Some people like safety and predictability, and some people are risk takers.
Yeah.
Right.
That's going to be his next point.
Right.
So,
And so I'm just saying that some people are stable, some people are risk takers, and that for those that are stable and like comfort, restrictions and rules sometimes are very comforting. It's like, man, I'm glad I'm not just free to do whatever I want, because who knows what the hell would happen.
Yeah. How you interpret God and your idea of what you think God is dramatically going to affect how you view suffering within reality. But not only that, how you position yourself within this reality, right? If you're the center of all this and all the bad thing that affects you and you only see it within your realm, of course it's going to look like there's a lot of evil, but you are taking you as the center of it all. What if it's all masterfully working and it's all equally loved the same? Right. What if the rock is loved just as much as you are?
Yeah. Is that even a practice that, that might make somebody kind of nervous to even try to do, is like put yourself left of center, imagine yourself adjacent in some way to everything,
Yeah.
And a kind of an overarching theme that is one of many that are becoming part of this channel is this idea that if you're this, try being a little that, and if you're that, try being a little this, right? So if you need everything to be solid and grounded to the point where you're putting out of your mind alternate ideas of things, test to see how far you can handle chaos a little bit, instability. I'm not prescribing people give into chaos. I'm saying cognitively, try to be like, well, I've heard people talk about non-duality, everything being one thing. Let me explore that thought for a sec. And if you're somebody that's lost in chaos, you're a nihilist or something, try to explore the idea that there's some order to this thing a little bit.
Yeah, try grounding yourself.
This is it, because it's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
So many things are about balance. Oh, we got to hear what the rest of this guy says.
All right, let's go. That's point 1.
So law of karma is one. One more answer. Let me see if you like it. Buddha's answer. Not only law of karma, a deeper thing is, as he said, all compounded things decay. Everything is transitory in this world. So, if everything is transitory in this world, whatever situation you have, which you like, is bound to, by definition, melt away after some time. We like certain things and we don't like the rest of it. This situation is good, this person is good, this relationship is good, this food is good, but only for a time being, because it will change. The person will change, your taste will change, body ages, the world changes. And so the acceptable, pleasant kind of situation which you liked, that will change, bound to change. Therefore, suffering is inevitable. Do you see how the transitoriness of the world will lead to suffering? Inevitably. That's an insight that...
Yeah. Everything is transitory, which means everything is impermanent. Everything is constantly shifting and changing. So suffering is inevitable, which kind of makes sense. And you say, well, why would God make it that way? Well, maybe that was the most ultimate way to make it. Because just because, like, would you want it to always be the same and never changing?
Would you never want to have experience? Would you never want to know something novel? Would you never want to have see what the difference between one thing and another is? And it's interesting because we're all limited. We incarnate as something that is limited, and then we kind of choose our level of involvement with the world. Yeah. And I know that I never want to dismiss the fact that everybody's got their own intense experience of reality, and then that creates who you are, and what can you do, what can you help but to see the world from what you've been given, right? Yeah. But I heard this idea put out there one time that, like, imagine a square box, and in it you see clouds passing, right? And then all of a sudden that box fills with storm clouds, and you're like, all it is storm clouds out there. But it's just one little, if you pan out, that box is cornered off, and there's a whole, sky out there. Yeah. Plenty areas of blue and everything like that. It's just how it appears as it's drifting through that one box. But it's going to drift. It's going to change. You know what I mean? And so part of spiritual work, in my opinion, is building up some kind of tolerance. I think meditation is helpful for that. It's because, you've meditated a lot. You sit down and you'll get some tormenting thoughts. But if you don't move, they go away. And then you'll get like a very temptingly motivating thought. It'll be like, ooh, like ideas, like that's a good idea. Why did that have to pop into my head when I'm meditating? And then you got to resist getting up and moving. You're resisting all this stuff passing through, right? And so in the path of life, when we're learning all these things, we're discovering new gurus and they're saying strange things, and our emotions are driving us. Yeah. I think that there's a wisdom and something to be gained or valued in learning how to, like, sit with it all, tolerate it. What am I supposed to be learning here? How do I keep my eyes open here? Yeah. And my ears open?
All right.
I hope that made sense.
So it's Swami continue.
The Buddha got. All compounded things decay in the world. They are all things come together and they fall. Whatever has come together will fall apart. Bodies fall apart. Minds fall apart. Relationships fall apart. It's a cheerful guy. No, actually it is true. Professor Heinrich Zimmer, he said, a spirit of unbounded optimism underlies all Indian philosophy. Why? You know, what is negativity? What is pessimism? Hopelessness without any solution. That is pessimism. Whereas in Indian philosophy, except the Charvaka, the materialist, all other philosophers, all the schools of Buddhism, all the schools of Jainism, and certainly all the schools of Hinduism, Sikhism, all of them, they all say that a solution is possible. So, though their prognosis about the world is pretty negative, but their ultimate point is that you should be positive. There is a solution possible. They call it moksha, kaivalya, nirvana, whatever they call it. In fact, that's why religion, you might consider religion to be gloomy. Religion is fundamentally positive because it says a solution to the sufferings of the world is possible.
Right there. That's a pretty interesting, at least, point. Is religion is a positive because at least it's a solution. You know, imagine you threw everything at somebody. Here's everything. You know, and they're like, I can't take it. It's everything.
Yeah.
And then you were like, well, let's carve out a little spot to make it more manageable. You know, and then we'll you know, I know it's not the whole picture, but it's at least a segment of this thing so you can chew on it to a reasonable degree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's too much. I don't know, like, because we've done a lot of examining of gurus and spirituality and talked about a lot of new non-duality and stuff like that. The idea, the of, you know, trying to get the whole picture or something like that. I don't know if that's possible. I don't think even the most enlightened masters.
Well, there's people that claim.
Yeah, they claim it. And maybe they do have it.
But then they always claim that there's deeper to go too. Right?
Yeah.
Is infinity or what?
Yeah.
They'll be like, I've been to the deepest depths of human psychology and spiritual experience, and there's deeper to go.
Yeah.
There's like, I've been already to the bottom, but there's actually, more somehow.
Yeah. And do you really want to just like abandon everything for, you know, to be able to see behind the veil, right? So like that's something to think about, right?
Spiritual plutonium here.
Yeah,
we're handling spiritual plutonium. If you're getting a nervous feeling, it's not for no reason. It's complicated ideas we're playing with here.
Yeah, and I just threw that out there. We'll let them continue on. I don't want to go farther into that, but yeah.
So this is a general answer to Arjo's question. Now taking his particular. By the way, the audience here also can ask questions. When I finish with this, you raise your hands and I'll invite you to come here and ask. The answer to that particular question is, did God create people to suffer so that we can help them? No. Suffering is, as you saw, God has not made people suffer so that you can become a saint. Rather, through the process of your own suffering and helping others, one transforms oneself. One can only do the best one can. Once in a sea of suffering, do the best you can. Not that you can solve the problems of the world. One cannot. Even the great avatars have not solved the problems of the world. The world still is a pretty miserable place. But what we can do is, as Arju has understood correctly, is that by pursuing, by working for the welfare of others, one can transform oneself. And to some extent, definitely you can help others. Definitely you can help others.
I was going to say, you can alleviate suffering. That's in your experience to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Now, does that, because you go and you alleviate someone's suffering, because you do that, does that stop perpetrators from existing? No.
Yeah.
Because we already discovered that this thing's infinite, right? So that's for the individual, man. That's for our own selves and for whoever hears that, I think, to ruminate on that. How much do I what could I get out of that? Is that worth investigating?
Yeah, people have been examining this subject since the dawn of time. and it'll probably continue to keep going on, this whole idea of suffering. I know a lot of people claim to have the solutions. A lot of spiritual practices and beliefs say this is how you handle it. This is how you're going to have to handle it. And, you know, that's what we do here. We examine a lot of what's going on here and trying to just pull out the tidbits and piece it together, right?
I thought I heard once, I could be way off, some stories about like people going to a guru and being like neurotic essentially or like unstable, and they're like having these tormenting thoughts or something like that, which seems kind of common.
Yeah.
But and then the guru would give them mantras to say, like, say this, go do this thing repetitively, or go do that thing, and then it's like an alleviation to their instability, you know.
Yeah.
Ram, ram, ram. I'm not saying that that's where that came from.
Yeah.
I'm like saying a story.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And so we get these solutions to alleviate suffering, and then I think all the while, I think we're learning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Service to others, things like that.
Yeah.
Like,
see what happens when you
yeah.
do it. Does it make you feel anything? Do you know?
All right. Well, there was a lot in that video, folks. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend, and everybody, until next time, stay spiritual.